This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Wednesday, November 23rd, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From the Associated Press, Indonesian rescuers search through rubble of quake. At least 268 people have been confirmed dead and more than 1,000 confirmed injured in the aftermath of a 5.6 magnitude earthquake that struck the Indonesian island Java on Monday. This region suffers near-constant seismic activity because of its location, but this time of year is particularly bad because of the combination of earthquakes and heavy rainfall, which often leads to mudslides. And this quake was particularly devastating because the epicenter was near a densely populated area, and the quake occurred close to the surface, under land rather than ocean. Rescuers are still attempting to save residents trapped under rubble, and a lot of people are still missing. From Deutsche Welle, Iran teams stage silent protest. The Iranian football team participating in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar stood silent as their national anthem played before their game against England's team, defying convention. Most teams sing or fake sing along with their anthem to show their support for anti-government protests happening back home. Several Iranian players have individually made their opinions about their government and the protests more overtly known. Those protests sparked by the death of a young woman while she was in the custody of Iranian morality police, and in the months since, growing into a full-blown movement for women's rights and against the repressive Iranian government. And this silent statement of solidarity has been welcomed by many fans, though there are concerns that the players may be punished by their government when they return home. And from Reuters, Beijing shuts parks and Shanghai tightens entry as China COVID cases rise. Following a brief loosening of COVID-related rules and regulations, many large Chinese cities have re-implemented harder core policies, including the closure of parks and requiring proof of a negative COVID test in order to enter public buildings, to deal with fresh waves of infections that have been in some cities, hitting new highs every day. China's COVID-0 policy has kept overall infection numbers low for most of the past few years, but it has also led to low vaccine uptake numbers, and they continue to only use locally made vaccines, which are not as effective as those used elsewhere. Consequently, every time they drop their draconian COVID-related rules, there are fresh infection surges, and the rules then go back up. Some argue this is a superior option compared to the approaches being used elsewhere around the world, but the Chinese economy has taken a serious hit as a direct result of this strategy, and usually well-behaved citizens have grown increasingly frustrated with all the lockdowns and restrictions, to the point where semi-regular protests have become almost normal in some areas. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.